Hey everyone, I'm Ernie. I'm with my friend Pat. Today we're going to go on a really cool, quick little adventure. We're going to be going and finding a crashed airplane. We're up in the hills up in West Sechelt at a little lake called Crowston Lake. And up there is Crowston Mountain. And in 1951, a large double-engined aircraft crashed in that mountain there. Unfortunately, the pilot did die. But here we are 67 years later. And it has been found. We looked for this airplane for probably 3 years and finally found it. There's a trail up to it now. Well, a mountain bike trail, but it gets us pretty close to it. So we're going to go up there today and take a look at it, and we'll give you a little bit of history about it along the way. So anyhow, I'm excited. Let's go. Hey, so we're heading up the side of Crowston Mountain. We're on the trail. You know, I got to tell you that when we were up here, there was no trails. I had originally heard of this crashed airplane, more of a legend. The story was told to me by my friend who had heard it from his dad, who had said he remembered as like a 5-year-old child coming up the mountain to a site where a plane had crashed. Anyhow, after several years of looking for it, couldn't find it. I finally went to the Coast News. Or not the Coast News, but the Gibson Museum, which has all the Coast News back to, I think, 1936 or 34. And I went through every Coast News until I found it. In 1951, a double-engined aircraft, Anston Mark V, crashed up in the mountains here in Crowston Mountain. And when I found this article in the paper, it sort of rejuvenated the whole idea of trying to find this airplane, because you know, a lot of people said, well, maybe it just never existed. But when we found it in the Coast News, it sort of rejuvenated it. And within another year, I guess, I think it was like January we came up here, wasn't it, Pat? It was there was no snow, amazingly. And we found it on the side of the mountain finally. So anyhow, we're heading up this way. It's going to be cool. Let's go. Wow, gee, we've been hiking up this mountain for about 30 minutes, kind of zagging up a little bit of a mountain goat right here, right now. But we just came across our first chunk of wreckage, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's a substantial chunk of steel. You know, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this airplane. This one was was called an Anston Mark V, and they were actually built probably in the 1930s. They were used as a bomber at the very beginning of the war, but very soon became obsolete. But they did find other roles right away. They were one of the first airplanes used for radar that was small enough to fit inside of an aircraft. They were actually fitted in these Anston Vs and were used for spotting submarines in the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. They were used throughout the world in different militaries, and they were also used for training bomber crews. They would actually train on these smaller Anston Vs and then get them ready for the bigger aircraft, the big 4-engined B-17s and whatnot. But they were a coast reconnaissance. After the war, they were actually used for transporting material throughout the up and down the coast. And this airplane was actually owned by Queen Charlotte Air, and you can actually still see there's some little chunks of yellow on it, which was the Queen Charlotte Air's color. So we're going to head up the mountain. We're going to do a little bit of metal detecting. I don't like to do too much in a site where the pilot, as I had said earlier, did die. And we're just going to kind of look around, but definitely not disturb too much. So anyhow, I'm going to go on and look for more stuff. Okay, we're working our way up. We're just going to do a little metal detecting. You know, you can't really tell, but you know, underneath this moss there can be stuff. Oh, maybe something there. Let's see. Oh yeah. Something there. see what we can do. See if we can dig around here. Oh. Yeah, there's something cool. It's old serial number off of something. Is that ever interesting? Huh, maybe we'll take that back with us and do some research. I don't normally take much at the site, but we'll do some research and it'll let us know what where it was made maybe. Okay, let's head up the mountain. Okay, we're a little bit higher up the mountain. We're almost at the crest of Crowston Mountain in West Sechelt. And look at this, we just came across this cool wreckage. So what this is, it looks to me like what was left of the Pratt and Whitney engine. There was two of them on this aircraft, two Pratt and Whitney engines, which are the same engines that they put on the Beaver aircraft that you hear taken off the inlet. This airplane was similar in the size to the DC-3 that you sort of know during World War II as a troop carrier. They were similar in size, and there was just lots of these were put into service after the war and during the war for many, many different situations. And like I said, at the time that this one crashed, it was being used as a cargo airplane. But look at all this cool stuff. Or, well, it's just mangled engine parts. This cool looking thing. And then it's like a, I don't know if that's a engine crank or it's substantial. It almost looks like where the propeller would have gone on or something. But anyhow, that's one of the engines. There was another one here somewhere. Who knows? It could have blown down the mountainside somewhere. Who knows where? So we're going to look around a little bit more. Okay, we just came across another little pile of metal. Looks like probably from the second engine. There's some more of this exhaust manifold stuff. Like I said, they were large Pratt & Whitney engines. These are very, very powerful engines. So it looks like there might actually be some of the frame parts. They've got some grease nipples, all kinds of weird components. So anyhow, as I had said, I'd gone to the Gibson's Museum and went through their Coast News. And in January of 1951, Captain Bruce Wilson was piloting a flight from Vancouver Airport heading up to Comox with a cargo of, I believe, mining equipment or something that was needed for the airport up there. It was reported in the paper that there was erratic engine sounds up towards West Sechelt. His plane soon after was reported missing. That evening a search party was sent up here with the RCMP and 3 or 4 other members. Because of the bad weather, they were unable to make it up here. They had to turn back at around 2 o'clock in the morning. The next morning, I believe it was like January 17th, a helicopter spotted the wreckage on this hillside here. And at the time, this mountainside had just been logged about, this is 60 or 70 years ago. It had just been logged. And I suspect that the pilot, this Captain Bruce Wilson, had some engine problems, was probably looking for any place that he could land, seeing that this was a fairly fresh logging area. And he crashed on the side of the mountain here. Anyhow, the next morning they sent up another search party headed by another constable, RCMP constable. They were aided by the help of a helicopter. They came to the airplane crash site at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They found the deceased body of the pilot, Bruce Wilson, Captain Bruce Wilson. He was brought down the mountain that day. Now, again, this is back in 1951. The forest has grown up a lot. There is one other interesting twist to the story, and it still needs further investigation. But what was also written up in the newspaper article was someone in the second search party was lost up the mountain. And at the time of the reporting in the paper, he was still missing. So we're going to do some more research, and we're going to see, and hopefully the member that was in the search party is found safely and returned back to West Sechelt. So anyhow, that's about the end of this story. We're going to head back out of here. It's about a half-hour hike, so let's go. It's getting dark. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw.